Hello, I'm Dana Searles, and each week I'll be recapping what is moving through the Iowa legislature, touching on notable bills. This week, lawmakers wrapped up week 7 at the Statehouse, and it was one of the more controversial weeks we have seen this session. It all centered around one bill that would remove civil rights protections for transgender Iowans under state law, and this bill is on the fast track as it is now on Governor Reynolds' desk. The bill would remove gender identity as a protected class under the Iowa Civil Rights Act, meaning this bill would make changes to state law that would require birth certificates to reflect an Iowan sex at birth, and it reflects that as being either male or female. It also redefines male and female. A male would be defined as someone who at some point produces sperm, while a female would be defined as a person who at some point produces ova. Now, under the civil rights law, people are protected from discrimination in things like employment, wages, housing, and education. So opponents claim this bill would essentially remove that protection when it comes to gender identity. And while the bill has drawn crowds at the Capitol all week long, it started in a House subcommittee hearing on Monday. The discussion saw some pauses as one speaker was removed by Iowa State Patrol after talking over the 2-minute limit. And the floor manager of the bill asked speakers to stop public comment for 6 minutes as protesters chanted outside the chambers. However, ultimately, the argument from those for this bill is that this would make sure transgender Iowans don't receive elevated protections, and also that it protects women and children, while those against say this would infringe on freedoms.
To take away the right for people to be treated fairly in this state would be to spit in the face of everyone who has fought tooth and nail for these rights.
Our educational system is there to educate our kids, based on facts and not feelings. There's no place for gender identity for our most vulnerable that are already confused by so much in this world.
This bill passed out of the House subcommittee on Monday along party lines and passed out of the House committee that same day, with one Republican joining Democrats in voting against. It is also on the fast track on the Senate side. The bill passed out of a subcommittee on Tuesday and then passed out of committee on Wednesday, with senators voting along party lines, all Republicans in favor.
We are saying you are not welcome here. You do not belong in this state. We don't want you. That is what this bill says to every trans Iowan, to every person that has issues related to their gender identity.
Protecting women and children in girls' sports, in restrooms, in schools, and also tried to protect the taxpayers from having to pay for elective sex change operations.
Then on Thursday, lawmakers in both the House and Senate debated the controversial bill, passing it in the Senate along party lines, and in the House, 5 Republicans joined all Democrats in voting against. Lawmakers in favor added that the legislation adds, quote, common sense protections for women and children from transgender boys and men in bathrooms and locker rooms, and adds it does not discriminate against a group of people.
I resist anybody discriminating against anybody, assaulting anybody, doing anything wrong against anybody. But this bill addresses protecting women and children.
While those against argued it's about taking away rights and protections from transgender Iowans.
And so when you sit here and tell us that you're trying to protect women and trying to protect women, what does this do to protect those folks? What we're doing is shutting off credit to people.
It's worth noting sexual orientation and gender identity were not originally included in the State Civil Rights Act of 1965. They were both added in 2007 by the Democratic-controlled legislature. Now, over in the House Higher Education Committee, a bill that was originally tabled but is now moving forward would prohibit community colleges from establishing diversity, equity, and inclusion offices and engaging in activities related to DEI. That same committee also passed a bill that would prohibit DEI offices in private colleges. Now, this expands on last session's bill that moved the same restrictions onto Iowa's public universities. Both those bills are now eligible for debate on the House floor. And Governor Reynolds had a couple of her own bills pass out of committees. One of those is a bill that would expand access to rural health care with goals of addressing the health care workforce shortages and improving access to health care services in rural parts of the state. It passed out of House committee in a unanimous vote, and that is now eligible for debate on the House floor. Another one of Reynolds' bills moving along is a bill that would help improve care for Iowa's preschool students. The bill would launch a $16 million grant program that would go to preschools and daycare centers if they work together to provide full daycare. It passed along party lines in both the House and Senate, with Republicans in favor and Democrats opposed. Those bills are now both eligible for debate. And finally, a bill modifying teacher salaries. If passed, the base minimum salary for teachers in Iowa would be $50,000. Now, full-time teachers with at least 12 years of experience would be paid at least $62,000. That bill passed out of a Senate committee this week and is now eligible for debate. And as we wrap up week 7, we are now 1 week away from the legislature's first final deadline. That means all bills must be passed out of a Senate or House committee in order for it to stay alive. If it has not passed out yet, that means the bill is dead. We will see you back here next week.